Deputy Philip Oziff has been suspended from Jersey's Parliament again after a debate held behind closed doors. A group of politicians who oversee members' behaviour put forward the suspension after he admitted in court to breaking immigration law. Here's our political reporter Ammar Ibrahim.
Today, Deputy Philip Oziff was suspended from the State's Assembly for a second time in just over 2 months. It's an astonishing low in a career that has seen some significant highs. He's one of the longest serving State's members and he's held senior ministerial positions. But in recent years, his career has been marred by controversy. That first suspension in September was linked to speeding offences, and in 2023 it emerged that he'd been called to the Petty Debts Court 10 times in 5 years. As you'll hear in my report, today politicians felt him pleading guilty to immigration offences made his position untenable. Since returning from their summer break, Deputy Philip Oziff's future has cast a shadow over the State's Assembly. He was suspended in September for speeding offences. Some politicians defended him, pointing to personal struggles, including the loss of his partner. Today, he still has colleagues fighting his corner.
I don't think that justice is being done to Deputy Oziff at the moment. I don't think that the states should be debating a proposition in advance of his appearance before the Royal Court for sentencing. We should wait, and that's the proper time to deal with it.
But others think enough is enough, and it's time for Deputy Oziff to step down.
One of the most toxic accusations you can make against politicians is that there's one rule for politicians and one rule for the rest of us. And I think the fact that Deputy Oziff is in this position, anybody else in a professional role would not expect to continue in their role.
In his parish of St Saviour, people we spoke to still held him in high regard, but believe he shouldn't stay in office.
It's really been one thing after the other when he's known he shouldn't have been doing what he was doing, basically. Yeah. It's not an example to set, is it, you know?
Yeah. You know, you've got to set standards, and obviously he's not doing that.
Deputy Oziff is due in court in February to hear his sentencing date. He won't be back in the State's chamber for several months, and his future in politics remains unclear.
Ammar Ibrahim there. Now, business leaders in Alderney warn introducing a goods and services tax would be harmful to the island's economy. The island's Chamber of Commerce has written to politicians in Guernsey asking them to reconsider increasing existing taxes such as income tax. House prices in Guernsey dropped by nearly 3% over the past year. This summer, the average cost of a local market home was just over £592,000. But prices are still much higher than they were 5 years ago, and rents continue to climb. A senior politician in Guernsey has confirmed talks are happening about starting a new flight route to Heathrow. Previous governments have explored the idea, and the current president of the Committee for Economic Development says discussions with an airline are ongoing and islanders will be updated when there's concrete progress. Now, as world leaders gather in the Amazon rainforest to set new climate goals, could Jersey be preparing to backtrack on one of its own targets? Both Guernsey and Jersey have committed to stop imports of petrol and diesel cars to the islands by 2030 to reduce carbon emissions. But Jersey's government has now begun a consultation to see if drivers support the plans. Marie Rain reports.
We could be seeing less of this and more of these in future, with targets to reduce the number of petrol and diesel cars in the islands. But Jersey's Environment Minister worries stopping imports of traditional vehicles could make driving difficult for those who can't afford to go electric.
That's a lot of money for people who are looking to buy a reasonable second-hand car to move around the island, to take their family out and just live their lives. How do we feel about the man in the street being able to afford to buy a car in 4 years' time?
But experts in the trade expect greener vehicles to become more affordable over time.
When originally electric vehicles came to market, they tended to be the bigger vehicles. They were a lot more expensive. We've seen prices align much more, which they are now. And in the next 5 years, there's a lot of new product that's going to come that's going to continue that trend towards price parity.
Guernsey authorities are also preparing for more drivers to choose electric cars and are currently considering where they can all be charged up.
For people that can't charge their vehicles at home, how do we deliver the sort of appropriate number of EV charge points around the island for people to use?
But not everyone thinks replacing petrol and diesel cars with electric is really enough.
We need to change the paradigm, so more walking, more cycling. It's most feasible in an island environment like Guernsey and Jersey, where no one lives far from work or from school.
Scientists say we need to do more quickly to tackle the effects of climate change. But whether the Channel Islands meet their own eco-targets could depend on whether the public support them. Marie Rain, BBC Channel Islands News.
And that is it from the Late Team. We're back tomorrow night 6:30. Until then, bye-bye.